Welcome to Movie Caps. Today, I will show you an action movie from 2008, titled, The Wrestler. Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie starts with a montage of 1980s media clippings, many of which feature Randy the Ram Robinson, a big professional wrestling figure. The movie then jumps forward 20 years, where Randy wrestles in New Jersey on weekends, for independent companies, while living in a trailer park, and working part-time at a supermarket. Randy agrees to a suggested 20th anniversary rematch, with his most famous opponent, the Ayatollah, after winning a local bout, in the hopes of regaining stardom. Randy returns home, to discover that he has been evicted from his trailer, for failing to pay his rent. He drinks a beer and takes pain medication, before having a nap in the back of his van. He goes to work the next day, loading boxes at a supermarket, where he asks his manager for more hours. After work, he visits a strip club, to see a stripper called Cassidy. Cassidy, like Randy, is older than her co-workers. She is 43 and quite attractive. Her co-workers are under 25, and dance to current music, rather than antiquated 80s rock. Randy overhears a couple of unpleasant young men, calling her an old hag in another room, and saying that she is old enough to be their mother. Randy rushes in and shoves them around, yelling that they have no idea how great Cassidy is. Before going on stage, she gives him a lap dance. The next day, Randy is shown going through his exercise routine. His first destination is a salon, to have his hair bleached blonde, followed by a tanning. He goes to a dollar store to get a few things for his impending match, and then is seen sitting in a gym locker room, buying $900 worth of steroids, and injecting them into his rear, before starting to work out like a madman. After leaving the gym, he talks to wrestler Dylan Summers, aka Necro Butcher, who informs him that the match will be particularly brutal. Randy is asked if he's ever competed in a match with Staples, and he responds no. The match begins, and turns out to be violent and vicious. Randy receives multiple gashes from the barbed wire, including a serious cut on his chest, but wins the bout by crashing a glass door over his opponent's head. Randy staggers backstage after the match, and is seated on a chair, where physicians furiously stitch him up and remove the staples. Randy gags a couple of times as a result of the pain. He walks over to his locker after the medics have left, and he is alone in his dressing room, but before he can even open it, he stares carefully at his left arm, vomits again, and passes out. Randy awakens in a hospital, to learn that he has had a heart attack, and will need bypass surgery. His doctor advises him that he was on the verge of death, and that he must stop taking steroids. To make matters worse, the doctor advises Randy to stop wrestling, since his heart can no longer tolerate the stress. He takes it easy the next day, as advised by the doctor. He invites a neighboring youngster over to play a wrestling video game, on an outdated Nintendo console, depicting Randy himself. The child joins him for one round, before leaving abruptly, grumbling about how old and uninteresting the game is. Randy goes for a jog, and halfway through, has to lean against a tree due to tiredness. He begins to cry from the agony in his chest, and the realization that he is alone in life. He returns to the strip club, and informs Cassidy of his heart attack, and she agrees to meet him outside to discuss, breaking one of her rules. He expresses his loneliness, and she proposes that he try to reconnect with his daughter, Stephanie. Randy is apprehensive at first, but eventually accepts. Randy visits Stephanie at her house, but she refuses to speak with him. She screams at him and storms away, blaming him for not being present during her upbringing. Randy returns to the strip club, and informs Cassidy of what has occurred. She offers to assist Randy in finding a present for Stephanie. Randy is waiting for Cassidy in front of a resale clothing store the next morning, when she comes up in an old pickup vehicle. She puts on trousers, winter boots, a heavy winter coat, and a winter cap before heading out. Randy compliments her by saying she looks good cleaned up, which is the polar opposite of how he usually sees her. She laughs it off, knowing what he was getting at. They head inside the vintage shop, to look for Stephanie's clothes. Cassidy chooses a black peacoat, but Randy insists on purchasing a lime green jacket with an S embroidered on it. For Stephanie, he adds. Cassidy frowns, but instructs him to do what he believes is right. He asks her if she wants to go get a beer outside the store. She says no. Randy is adamant and wonders why she can't. She says she doesn't generally do things like this, but she has something to confess. She has a child. His age is 9. Randy inquires as to why she has never told him before, and she says that having a child is simply not considered desirable. She gives him a photo of her son, and he compliments her on how attractive he is, saying he looks just like his mother. Randy immediately dashes to his van, returns, and hands her an old Randy the Ram wrestling action figure, which he instructs her to give to her son. Randy eventually persuades Cassidy to join him for beer. He kisses her in the pub. After they talk and reminisce about the 1980s, and how bad things are now. She embraces him thoroughly at first, but then abruptly pushes him away, throws her beer down, and walks away. Randy visits Stephanie, and presents her with a gift. The first was a gleaming lime jacket with an embroidered letters. He explains that the following one is the genuine gift, because she is unsure. He then presents her with the peacoat Cassidy chose. This one appeals to her much more. Stephanie agrees to spend the afternoon with him grudgingly, but he insists. They speak while walking along the New Jersey boardwalk. Randy admits that he has failed as a father. He sobs and begs her to give him the relationship he never had, because he was so wrong the first time. Stephanie warms up to him, and agrees to meet him for dinner that weekend, believing he is attempting to be a decent father. Randy travels to a convention a few days later, to sign autographs for admirers, but only 2 people show up to see him. He also notices that several of the ancient wrestlers are crippled, one of them is in a wheelchair. Randy leaves and phones everyone, informing them that he is now retired, and canceling the Ayatollah's 20th anniversary rematch. He then goes to work, and walks straight into his boss's office, without knocking, where he finds himself watching explicit content. Randy turns around and closes the door, knocks twice, and his employer yells, "What do you want?" Randy wants extra hours yet again. Except for weekends, his supervisor says, he has nothing else to provide him. Randy pauses before agreeing to weekends. He'll be working behind the deli counter. After wearing an apron and a hairnet, the boss gives him his name tag, and he walks out to the deli counter, and gets right to work. He appears to enjoy taking care of the customers, as well as chopping meat, and cooking poultry. He later visits Cassidy at the strip club, and presents her with a thank you card. He offers to bring her a drink, but she refuses, because she doesn't drink with customers. "I thought we were past that," he says, stunned. She screams at him, saying no, he's only a customer, and she shouldn't have gone out with him the first time. They fight, and Randy insults her, prompting her to call security, and have him booted out. Randy, upset, attends a wrestling show as a spectator. He goes out with the other wrestlers after the show, and gets wasted. He goes home the next morning, and sleeps all day, only to learn that he missed Stephanie's meal the night before. He arrives at Stephanie's house in the middle of the night to apologize, but she is in tears, throwing things at him, and yelling that she waited 2 hours for him to arrive. She claims he has never been, and will never be her father. She also tells him that he cannot change who he is, that she will never see him again. The next day, Randy goes to work. While dealing with an irritable elderly lady, he becomes angry, and to add insult to injury, the next customer comments, he thinks he remembers him, that he looks exactly like the Ram, except older. Randy smacks his thumb into the deli meat cutter, humiliated. Customers scream, as he cries in anguish, and blood spatters, as he cuts himself. He screams at his employer, and his boss reminds him that there are customers. He subsequently phones the promoter to say he wants to wrestle the Ayatollah, in the final bout. Randy is later seen bleaching his hair, and spray tanning himself with a box, before packing up his trailer with all of his stuff. Cassidy enters just as Randy is leaving, and apologizes, claiming they have a connection, but she was hesitant to let him get too close. Randy appears to have accepted the truth, that he is meant to be alone, and drives away, passing her a flyer. Randy arrives at the arena, and greets Ayatollah Khomeini, who is now a used car salesman named Bob. They get caught up, and get ready for the game. Cassidy enters, just as Randy is about to walk out to the ring, with the crowd roaring his name. She cautions him, that if he wrestles, his heart might stop beating, but he dismisses her warning. Randy claims that the real world doesn't care about him, and that the ring is the only place he belongs. Cassidy expresses her desire to be with him, but Randy rushes to the ring, his music blasting. Randy thanks the supporters before the match, and tells them how he's lived his life by burning the candle at both ends. Even though everyone said he'd never wrestle again, he's back. The match begins, and the audience is enthralled. However, as the match goes on, Randy begins to stray from the original plan. Ayatollah, concerned, inquires about his well-being. Randy appears to be doing this on purpose, as if he wants his heart to stop beating. Randy even imitates one of the Ayatollah's hallmark movements. Randy's heart starts to fail as the fight progresses, and he can hardly stand. When Ayatollah realizes this, he tries to put an end to the match to save Randy's life, but Randy refuses. Randy scans the throng, but fails to spot Cassidy. Randy finally makes it to the top rope, to throw his iconic Ram Jam finishing, his heart ready to burst, as he salutes the crowd, with tears and perspiration streaming down his face. Randy realizes that the only people who truly loved him were in fact his beloved fans. He grants their request, and leaps from the top rope to victory. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications and leave a like to help the channel out.